Hello, I'm Brigantia, Blackbird of Blackbird's Brew. Happy Sunday. We're going to talk about the Dagda again today, and in particular about his harp. His harp was called Unathne, which means four-angled music. Now, according to legend, the harp was made of oak. Some sources say a very rare wood. Oak is not rare, but it's one of those things. It depends on who you're asking. But it was this beautiful harp. It had gold and jewels and carvings to adorn it, so it was just this gorgeous, gorgeous thing. Now, interestingly, it was the Dagda and the Dagda alone who could make music on it, which highlights its magical nature. He could also use the harp to shift people's emotions. He could make them laugh. He could make them cry. The whole spectrum of human emotion, and he could do that just with the harp. And also, he could use the harp to make the seasons come around in the correct order. And it is this detail that's one of the reasons why I felt moved to make this video today. In Missouri, the seasons come in whatever order they happen to feel like, to the consternation of everyone, most especially gardeners. It's very difficult to cope when you could get spring, summer, winter, and fall within the course of a week. For example, last week it was in the 60s, the 70s, the sun was shining, the breeze was warm, the plants were looking like they were starting to wake up, and I was dreaming of daffodils. And today, it's cold. There are currently 6 inches of snow on the ground. Not sure if we're getting more, but it's not completely outside the realm of possibility. This order of things seems very backwards to me, and it delays the blooming of flowers, and it makes the colorful floral wreath I have on my front door just look a little bit silly right now. So it would be very nice if the Dagda would play his harp and sort out the seasons where I live. But moving on, the harp was actually also useful in battle. When the Tuatha De Danann were fighting the Fomorians, the Dagda was able to use his harp to inspire the troops. They forgot their fears, they forgot any and everything that might hold them back, and they fought absolutely ferociously as a result. Now, the Fomorians figured out what was giving them this advantage, and they decided it would be to their strategic benefit to steal the harp. And they did. The battle was raging, all the troops were engaged, but the Dagda's house was unguarded, and there was a grouping of people who went into his home and took the harp, and then they fled. They decided it would be best not to be amongst those present. They took the women and the children and the harp, and they hid in a deserted castle to wait and see what was going to happen. Now, despite the loss of the harp, the Tuatha De Danann actually won the battle, and the absence of the Dagda's harp was soon noticed because they're like, come play us a song to celebrate the victory, and he goes to play it, and, the harp's nowhere to be found. So the Dagda asked for volunteers to help him fetch it, and before long, the gods Agma and Lu and the Dagda were on the road, and they were going to go retrieve the harp. After a while, the trio found the castle where the remaining Fomorians were all holed up, and as luck would have it, they were asleep. Agma was concerned about how they would creep past the sleeping Fomorians, but the Dagda stretched out his hand, called to his harp, and it came to him. It just immediately flew off the wall from where it had been hanging and went straight into the Dagda's hand. Unfortunately, this woke up the Fomorians, who were startled and disturbed, and they grabbed their weapons. Lu asked Dagda to play his harp, and the Dagda obliged, playing music that made the people laugh and dance. But as soon as he stopped playing, the people picked up their weapons again and were, advancing towards them. Then Agma implored the Dagda to play again, which he did, but this time it moved the people to weeping. And again, as soon as the music stopped, the Fomorians picked up their weapons and they began advancing again on our trio. Finally, the Dagda played music that would make everyone sleep. The Fomorians did their best to stay awake, but one by one they all fell asleep, and then Lu, Agma, and the Dagda were able to get away, and that was the last time that the harp was stolen. So the moral of the story is don't steal the Dagda's stuff. But beyond that, I am struck by how multifunctional the harp was, and I think this speaks to the nature of music. Music has a way of affecting our very souls. It can keep us transfixed, and it helps us feel a range of emotions and access emotions that we otherwise would have difficulty putting into words, because some things are beyond words, but it's not beyond music. And depending on the kind of music, it can fuel our motivation to get up and do things. It can be an outlet for feelings that overwhelm our senses, help us grieve even, and sometimes some music can help us sleep. It can reorder our spirits, just as the Dagda's harp can reorder the seasons. And interestingly, I've been hearing about how sound waves can actually be weaponized and they can be used on people, causing some rather odd-looking injuries. The devices used for this purpose are considered non-lethal, and they have been deployed during recent protests, which is something to research on your own if you're interested. So the idea of using sound or music as a weapon is not something that's confined to legend anymore. So music and sound have a magic all of their own, which may be a subject that we actually explore a bit in future videos. But for now, I would love to hear your thoughts about this. Were you familiar with the Dagda's harp and everything it was capable of doing? Do you have any other experiences you would like to share, either working with the Dagda or research that you've done regarding magical Celtic objects that are sacred in the lore? I would love to hear from you. You can come see me at Blackbird's Brew on Discord. There is a link to join in the description box below, or you can leave a comment here on the channel. And as always, please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.